Well, we have visual confirmation that Katie Goodman is safe and sound in Australia after a flight that took her from LA to Hawaii a couple days ago, or maybe a week ago. I don't know how long that flight was. We'll have a chance to ask her about it in just a moment. But Katie, great to check in with you now that you've had a few days in Australia under your belt. How are you feeling after all that travel?
Oh my God. They talk about the jet lag and you think, whatever, it's a plane ride. You're just sitting there, you're not doing anything. Like, why is it a big deal? But man, it hit me hard. It hit me pretty hard. I feel like I landed and I've just been trying to kind of tread water since. I mean, I landed, I ate dinner with my friend, and then I went out with some people. And so I just hit the ground running and then woke up early that next morning, was on set, and have been on set since pretty much. And so, I tried to catch a game yesterday. A couple things fell apart. It's been a smidge chaotic, but I would say today's the first day that I'm feeling really myself. I'm finally on schedule. I didn't wake up feeling tired or like foggy or groggy or any of that. So I'm excited for that. And I'm going to take a walk down along the coastline here after this at Koji Beach and then Bondi Beach. So I'm going to go and do that, walk around, and then grab some lunch. And I think that's going to be like probably my one touristy thing I do. I might go by the Opera House some point next week. But for the most part, it's all business for me here. So.
Yeah, well, most of us are stuck in rush hour traffic right now back in the States. Katie's just starting a brand new day. It is Saturday already over there. So if you have any questions about the future, reach out to Katie about what the future holds. You mentioned you're going to finally get out and get to do some sightseeing. Obviously, the set there has been beautiful. I know you've had some great scenes from there. What have you been inspired to do now on your day that you're going to be able to roam around the island?
Oh man, I'm the kind of person that likes to be in nature, and I like to, find little unique trinkets and things along the way. And I just feel like I've heard a lot of good things about Bondi Beach and Koji Beach, and it's about a 3 hour walk between the two beaches. So, luckily, the place where I'm staying right now, when I'm staying with one of my best friends from high school, and so she lives maybe not like 20-30 minute walk from the beach. And so we're just going to head that way and then walk up. And so, I'm really excited for that. It's for me, everyone talks about the Great Barrier Reef and doing all of that, but that's actually like way far away. That's almost like a flight from like LA to New York far away. It's not just not Australia might look small on the map, but it's giant. It is huge. And even like a couple of the nearby stadiums are 2-3 hours away. New Zealand is like 3 hours away. So yeah, I mean, even in Sydney, their public transportation is great. It's such an interesting city. It feels like a fusion of American cities, like a bunch of them, like there's a little bit of San Fran, there's a little bit of Chicago, New York, I mean, Chinatown. They have everything, but it's still distinctly, uniquely Sydney. So it's such a beautiful city. I'll be sure to post more of, those kinds of videos here coming up. Like I said, I've been jet lagged, so I have not been going too hardcore on the posting. I'm doing good just to get to where I need to be and then show up and maybe grab some photo ops. But yeah, you'll see a lot more from me on my end now that I'm feeling a lot better, a little more perky. But yeah, no, it's a beautiful city. The public transportation is great, but it does take about an hour for me to get from where I am to the studio, which is over kind of like near a pier under the bridge looking across to the opera house. So there's the opera house in the backdrop. I mean, it looks fake, it looks like a backdrop, but it's real and it's there, and there's multiple stages. So mind you, they came in and they set all of this up. This was not a pre-existing building. They built it there. Otherwise, there's nothing there, so they built it. And on one half of the first building thing, there is the digital set. So that's the show that you see on Twitter. And then you walk through a door to the right, and that is the pregame show where you see Carly and Alexi with their, mugs with a nice big pretty desk, and then the opera house in the background. Then you walk all the way down to the main like pier area, and that's when the big open set is. They call that the pitch because there's a a green grass like pitch there. Then you have the desk, and then all kinds of things can happen. They have moving stages as well, so they can set up at different angles. You'll see them doing some what feels like street or sideline hits. That's just still in the same area, a little bit further away. And then you of course have people in the field, down at the field in New Zealand, and typically they have a reporter for almost every game there, definitely for the U.S. women's national team games. But yeah, it's just the production is insane. So many cameras that are worth more than my life, just each of them on their own. And for me, I'm like, don't trip, don't breathe wrong, don't touch anything, because anything could happen. But no, everyone's so nice. Everyone's so nice, and it's so fun. And a lot of the talent are so helpful and wise, and I've learned a ton just being there. And even if that's all that this ends up being, I'm so happy for that and grateful for that. I've learned a lot from them, and they give me tips and whatnot. So it's cool to just see it all play out, all the way from production meetings to all the way through the game. So that U.S. women's national team game that we just saw against the Netherlands, I was in on the production meeting, and where's all the meeting of the minds, and producers give their feedback, talent says what they want to say, and then they kind of help whittle it down to make it more succinct, or how do we toss that to this or to that. And so there's a smidge of a little bit of pre-planning, because there has to be, but you just don't realize how much goes into it. And then of course anything could happen, right? So you got to kind of roll with it, especially once that first half goes by, and then excuse me, sorry, yawning. And then they come in at the second half and they do their thing, right? And it's flawless. It's totally flawless. And so what's funny though is during the game, of course, they're sitting there watching. So this last game, I got to sit with Carly Lloyd and Ariane Hinks just right there on the stage with them watching the game. And that's usually what I do when all the games are on. I'm just sitting there watching with the talent, listening, what their thoughts are, and then how they take those thoughts and put them into the halftime show. So it's cool. It's crazy, like just hearing from the GOAT of soccer, like in real time, her thoughts on a game. It's cool.
Again, Katie began her journey first hopping over to Los Angeles, quickly lost a fight with a rental car door, and then everything it sounds like has gone great though since then. You did chip a nail though, that has since been mended, but
it has been. Look, you can't even tell which one it is, I bet.
You made your way out to Australia. You mentioned jet lag, but at the same time, you probably felt like you were dreaming for a lot of that time when you saw so many faces that you see on Fox's coverage of the Women's World Cup each time that this festive occasion comes around. If you and I had thought about this, we would have had you brushing up on your German accent, see how many other crew members you could have fooled by suggesting you were the former German international standout who is going to be sitting at the desk.
They definitely would have caught me red-handed, because there's zero German in my background at all whatsoever. I couldn't even tell you a single word. Fraulein, I think, means woman or something. Who knows? But I did speak some Spanish with Mel Ortiz, so I did a quick interview with her in English and in Spanish, because she's one of those huge Latinas in the soccer industry, and she's growing and she's doing so many amazing things, and not only on the women's side but the men's side too. And so I just had a quick little 3-question interview with her, and I said, well, if you're Latina, you speak Spanish, let's give something for the Spanish speakers out there. And so I just did the same interview, but in Spanish. Yeah. So that's about the extent of my bilingual capabilities. And even then it's Spanglish. So I'll stay away from the German. I'll leave that for Ari.
A lot of Katie's background in broadcasting is the live game coverage as an analyst, but Katie, tell me if you agree with me. I actually think it's harder for the studio production that isn't even on air as long as the actual game itself, but they have tight windows they have to get in and out of. They have to hit talking points. And when you have as many as 4 people as you have at the desk, along with, Rob Stone up there with the 3 former players, it's a time crunch making sure you get everybody in before that next commercial break. Meanwhile, when you and I are out there calling soccer matches or other sports, we have time to let it breathe a little bit and aren't under as much of a crunch until a timeout or halftime comes around.
You're so right. You're so right. It's almost like a totally different muscle that they are working. Every single person on that desk can call a game, no problem, right? But like it's so hard to get behind that desk and to stay. It's not a script, but it is, just stay on track with the talking points, like you said, and to stay succinct with it, and it's something as small as a change in the way you say a sentence or the way you pose a question or a thought, it can change the entire conversation. Good thing is these people are pros, so they don't really have that problem, right? And you have guys like Rod Stone who do such a great job of just corralling things. And, Carly, I'm amazed by it. It wasn't long ago that she was a player, and then she went into this huge national broadcast. I mean, think about that. Think about when you first started doing TV, how hard that was, right? I know it was hard for me. And she just has come along in such a short period of time. She's a real pro. She's just got it down. Like she just hit the ground running with it. And so very impressed there because that's not an easy thing to do at all. But yeah, no, she does a great job. And it's a whole team. They have researchers, they have a bunch of minds there working together, talking things through. And so but their thoughts are from their own. So yeah, it was really cool to see.
Last time you and I chatted, we dove into the USA Vietnam matchup where US prevailed 3-0. Got your impressions on that. So let's now that we're catching up for the first time since the Netherlands draw with the United States, let's get your thoughts on how that played out. Obviously, in the first 16 minutes, right there in that 16th minute mark, it looked like the Dutch had an opportunity and then for a brief second maybe had squandered the opportunity, but seconds later, they're putting one in the back of the net.
Yeah, I think it was, I wouldn't say a shock. It felt like a shock, but I think also it was only a matter of time. They had all the momentum going in that moment, and they dominated the game. They truly dominated the game, I think, from start to finish. I mean, yes, we had pockets of some good stuff out there on the pitch, but I think we're still growing so much as a team. And I think that was the very first stress test that they've actually been under as a new young team. And so in a way, it's kind of good to get that out of the way early on, right? And at least they walked away with a draw. But there were a couple opportunities that were just big misses that should not have happened, right? Or there's just a couple of, times where they couldn't get their rhythm. They're struggling to connect passes. And I think every player on that pitch probably knows they could have done better. I think it was one of those situations where like, damn, we're lucky Lindsey Horan came in and got on the end of that header and finished things off for him, and I think she was that player. There's always that player on the team that shows up and brings the rage. And you need somebody like that. You need someone who's going to show up and just be pissed off when things aren't going right. And yes, you need to stay calm and collected, but like sometimes you just need that switch to flip and so that things will happen. And I think that's the kind of like leadership and energy that she brings as a U.S. women's veteran, right? And she did that, and she had a little scuffle there with her teammate, and it was just good TV, great stuff, great entertainment. And then she finished the job. And what's so cool about that is I was sitting there watching it with Ari, and she's like, all right, Horan's gonna score. And what happened? She scored, and I was flabbergasted. I was like, how did you know that? Like, oh my God. But apparently a couple of people called it. So I guess it's her thing. But I immediately pulled out my phone. I was like, Ari, what did you just say right now? And she's like, I said Horan was going to score. And so I just wanted to validate that and give her the credit where it's due because she called it. I mean, right before the cross even went in, she's like, Horan's got it. And then boom, it happened. So, yeah.
Yeah, these are the moments in live sports that seem like they're a scripted movie where that is how things would play out in any Disney movie where you're trying to overcome some adversity. But even if that match was scripted, good luck nailing that ball right to Horan there for her to head it home and be able to execute on that on a movie set, let alone in the midst of a Women's World Cup. A fantastic finish. That would be the only goal scored in the second half. United States would play to a draw with the Dutch. So neither of them has, as of yet, confirmed that they're moving on. We suspect they'll both be moving on to the knockout stage. But just your impressions so far. overall of the tournament, what's your been a few of your impressions of what you've seen in terms of the talent level from top to bottom?
Oh yeah, a common theme that I'm noticing that a lot of people are talking about here is how the level of world soccer has elevated substantially. You're not seeing as many, 13-0 games. You're seeing more like, if anything, like a 5 or 6-0 game, which is great because you don't want those blowouts to happen, right? And so I think a big part of that is just, the effort that FIFA has put forth in trying to elevate the women's game. That's all good stuff. Phone's going off, my bad. Yeah, so all good stuff there, but also Carly Lloyd had made a really interesting point. She was saying how in her early days of playing, they would always aim for the upper 90s because the keepers back then just weren't as athletic. It was harder for them to get to those tight corners. But now, players come into the game wanting to be a keeper, and I remember that too as a young kid being like, well, I'm obviously never going to be a keeper because I'm all of 5'1.5", right? But, I remember the kids in the goal being like, I don't want to be keeper. I want to do this. And now there are players out there who, thanks to, Hope Solos and all these, big, amazing, incredible athletes, they want to go into that position. And so now the game has changed. There's more shots blocked, right? But I also think too that just like the game in general has elevated. The athletes are better. The soccer is prettier to watch. For me, it feels a lot of times higher IQ even in the men's game. And I don't mean that as a stab. I don't mean that as a stab at all. Nobody hate me. But I feel like I can see it play out really clearly in the women's game, and I love it so much, and I just hope it keeps growing. So
We'll chat with you in a couple more days around the next match. At the moment, when do you think that you're departing?
Oh, well, as of right now, I'm leaving back to San Antonio. Well, back to actually Hawaii on August 3rd. And I'll spend a day in Hawaii, and then I'll fly back into LA, and then from LA to San Antonio. So it's gonna be another long trek, and I'm gonna probably need another 3 to 4 days to recalibrate. But yeah, I'm gonna come back. I'm trying to set up some fun things maybe while I'm there in San Antonio too. So stay tuned for that. That is if I do in fact come back, because I love it here. The weather's great. My gosh, I wish I could bottle it and take it with me. I mean, it was like 70 degrees yesterday, and then before that, like I think 65, 62. I mean, the nights are a little chilly, but it's like a welcomed chilly. It's like it's almost like my body needs that refresher, and so I've been getting it, and I'm so happy for that. And then of course, just oh man, I missed a game the other just last night because I had gotten tickets on a third-party app. So I get there, I am riding this train all the way to the stadium, and as I'm stepping off, I realized they had canceled the tickets and pulled them back. And so I was so sad. I was going to do some street interviews and the whole shebang, but I ended up, scrapping it. So I'm going to try to make the Germany and Colombia game, and that one is in the next couple of days. My schedule is a blur. If I don't know what's happening if I don't have my schedule right in front of me, but I'm gonna try to be at that game. Currently it's sold out, so I'm gonna see if I can scrap around and find some tickets, good old American style. They don't have scalpers here either, by the way. So if it's sold out, it is sold out. Like there's no people selling tickets, none of that. So I was kind of SOL in that situation, but I did still get some merch, which was cool. They had a merch table out front, so I got some cool things there. But yeah, so until then, I'm gonna try to make a couple things happen. You're gonna see a couple of talent interviews, and it's called 3 Questions with Katie, and so you'll see me asking each one of the talent at Fox 3 quick questions. And yeah, so I think it'll be fun.
Perfect. You can find Katie Goodman on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, all with the same handle. I'm Katie Goodman. I am Katie Goodman. And Katie, when a game sold out, that's what your Fox credential is for.
Wouldn't that be so nice if I could swing that? I don't know if I get that credential as a shadow is the only problem. I think I might be able to pull something off for the Germany Colombia game, but as for that one, it was too last minute. Nobody could help me. Probably not even the president of FIFA himself could help me in that situation. It was a packed house, and I did see some people on the tram after when the game was over because I had gone out, and they were just like, it was an incredible experience. It was jam packed. And they said England had so many opportunities. It should have been a higher scoring game. I agree with that. But all in all, still very well done. So yeah, it's so good to see. You know, on one hand, it sucks that, man, there's not even a single ticket out there. But on the other hand, I'm like, if that's the cross I have to bear for a women's game to be sold out in a giant stadium like Allianz Stadium, I'll take it. So hopefully I'll catch the next one.
Yeah, again, Katie's in Australia, while New Zealand's the part of the continent where they have not had all the sellouts, just because the strength of their soccer program, the Ferns, hasn't had the same history as we've seen over in Australia. But no doubt, great atmospheres on either end. Katie, enjoy catching up. Envious, again, she's just now starting her day. It's by my count about 8:30 in the morning over there, and so unless she hits that snooze button, she's headed out to the beach for the next few hours.
That's right. I'm gonna send a couple emails, do some things I gotta do, and then make my way out there.